So, good evening. I think we should all be together, and hopefully you can see us and you can hear us, and I might be able to get rid of some of the extra little panels here on the side that we don't actually need to make you all a little bit bigger. We are here together to talk about our experience of playing Blade Runner and our special guests today. Where should I start? Should I start with the Mordor t-shirt?
Yeah, hello, I'm Mohammed.
Mohammed, indeed, and we've played a few games together. And then maybe hang on. Him down there. The game runner.
I am Bruce. I have ran Blade Runner twice now. The same adventure.
Yep, twice. Good. And then that hairy bloke there.
I'm Matthew, and I've got to say, I'm admiring your corner graphic up there.
Yeah, you're looking in the right spot. Yes, you are.
Of course I am. I'm a seasoned professional.
Yes, maybe I should make it a bit bigger. So what are you saying?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Nice and discreet. But yeah. So I'm Matthew, co-host of the Effect podcast, and this whole group got together to play Blade Runner on our lovely Discord, which is a patron-exclusive benefit.
And it is the nicest place on the internet.
Officially the nicest place on the internet.
Officially so. Lots of people think so. And actually, it's a really cool crowd there. You can even pick a game up there. Like I was moaning that I hadn't played Merc Boy yet. And Mohammed jumped and said, I can run that for you. And he ran a one-to-one session just so I would have a bit of play experience. So it truly is the nicest place on the internet. And the podcast is an unexpected bonus. Right? So, we ran Blade Runner. We ran what I've got here on the side, this case file, Electric Dreams. And Bruce was so good, even though it was only still in early access, so everything is just digital, to run it for us. And he's actually run it twice. I've run it once now with a German group. If you want to watch us play it, by the way, we have recorded it. There are, I think, 3 or 4 episodes. But yeah, really today we don't want to recap blow by blow what happened. We just want to find out what the experience was like for everybody. So rough structure is how did we play the games? How do we think games were, rules worked, and so on? What was the case like? Are there any particular pitfalls that we came across where we said this does work, this doesn't work, or this would work, but we would have to do it differently? And maybe also have a little bit of the discussion about can you actually make your own case files at the end? Because that was a big question mark for me. Right. Foul and Twin Bears back, yeah? Hello again. Did you say 2 streams in a day? This is at least my 4th one today. But okay, so here we go. Where shall we start? Shall I start a little bit?
No? Well, you're the host.
Yeah.
Frank,
in that case, I shouldn't start. I shouldn't really start, should I? But
or you could go up to, seasoned professional. No, it's on the wrong screen. Down to Bruce.
Down to Bruce. I'm just going to very quickly say, this is still in early access. We played it in early access, so anything we say might change a little bit or might have to change still afterwards. And I think even the late patch is still open. But yeah, Bruce, what was it like to run it? You ran it twice.
Yeah, so I've ran it with yourselves, 3 players, and before that I ran it with a couple of friends, so I've ran it as a 2-player as well. It's interesting because in the 2-player one, they did a few things. They ended up doing things differently, and they missed a lot of the clues. So one of the things that you did pick up quite quickly was asking the right questions. So running that's one of the things you have to be mindful is a game where you really kind of have to listen to what the players are saying. I know it says you can roll dice to find stuff in mechanics, but for me, I felt this is more of a game you've really got to listen to what the players are asking you for clues. The bulk of it is going to be an investigational side. I mean, I've enjoyed running it, and I'll certainly want to run it again for other groups. I mean, I do have a few opinions about the other questions, but we'll come back to them later on around it. But yeah, I found it quite interesting. The one thing we did pick up is when you're running it and you're still running it during the game, we kept finding misprints and typos.
We found
The
a few.
biggest one was the caliber of the bullet,
Mm-hmm.
because it is supposed to be tied to the gun, and there was a big difference to what's on a player's character sheet and in the book to what was actually printed. So you're obviously constantly asking questions, and you're expecting players to ask questions that thought of. Another thing I find is the shift. There is a ticking clock. I like that. Okay, you've taken this long to investigate, but one of the things that early access adventure probably could still do with is, if you're going to spend some time, that's fine. That's going to be a shift. But some places you went to, you're just asking about one or two questions and you're leaving again.
You need to be a
That's
bit more
all-
flexible about it.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
be more flexible
Mhm.
about it. So again, yeah, you've got to think about that from that side. I mean, I get both your groups have said it was fine, you enjoyed it. I'm sure there'll be other things you picked up on it. And yeah, but it was a good game. The only thing I just struggled is you did need everything broken up in a way, because it's laid out not in the way
Mm.
you expect people to investigate. It needs to be not a booklet, but I think sheets of all the locations. Just
Yeah.
handy to jump to.
I did a fair bit of note taking myself, I have to say, and some of this scenes towards the end, especially. I use these little things. They're still lying here because from a finale.
Yeah.
You can see them if hold in front of my face. I basically made little index cards to say this is the plot and this is what's going to happen today, and just jotting down what the sequence would be and what the timings would be. So I definitely agree with that. You need to have your own notes taken for running it. What did you make of the investigation and the sort of being split up all the time as a party? What did you make of that, my fellow players here?
Are you asking us, fellow players?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yes.
So I'm going
guess,
to mea culpa here, because I purposefully split up for two reasons. Partly, for three reasons. Partly because my character is a curmudgeonly old bastard
He was.
who, broadly speaking, it doesn't respect you. Did that come across? I'm not sure it did.
It did at the begining. Towards the
Not
end,
at all.
it sort of faded a little bit, but at the beginning, it came across very much. He just walked out and stormed off and didn't tell us anything.
So that was one reason. But also, I particularly wanted to test the idea of, Blade Runner. The genre, shall we say, now is generally about an individual. I mean, other people come into their lives, but it's a noir detective on his own, not necessarily even. In the movies, yes, he's part of a police department, but of course, in the book, he's a freelancer, so he doesn't really get much support from the police. In fact, he kind of sees the police as a bit of an enemy. He can't quite trust them. And I remember when we interviewed Thomas, I guess about a year ago, or longer, when it was first announced. We quizzed him entirely about that and said, is it a game you can play sort of solo, or and he said, yeah, it's definitely for smaller groups.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to test that out and try being solo and try to split the group up. And I kept I tried to send each of you individually off to other places.
You were the boss after all.
So it wasn't a solo, because I really just wanted to test how that worked. And there was a third reason as well.
Let me guess, you wanted the limelight.
I wanted the limelight. No, but actually, I did want to see how the time division worked.
All right.
And so that was kind of partly, I guess, testing you, Bruce, in how you manage that. But I just wanted to see. So yeah, I guess that's actually still part of the mechanics of trying to play a solo. And so I wanted to push at the system. I have thoughts on that, but Mohammed, what did you think first of all?
Yes, the same as you're saying, but maybe the concept of splitting the group is the perfect solution in Blade Runner to not to lose any time. So splitting the group is the right thing to do, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there is this lovely mechanic of shifts. The fact that you can effectively do 3 things, encounter 3 scenes a day.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you split up, then the group can counter 6, or 3 of us between us. Potentially, we could have done 9 scenes in a day and been incredibly efficient.
What I quite like is the way we basically used the shift log, to actually put some thoughts in and some whatever we found. I think that was really important for us to actually keep track, not just where we went, but also what were the key findings. Because we split over, how many sessions did we play? 2, was it, or 3?
3 or 4, wasn't it?
I forget now.
Yeah.
I
I think you recorded 3, Frank, but I don't think the first episode appeared online.
No, I think it did. They're all there. But I might have split the first one. I think I split the first one into 2 videos. But anyway, for that, it was really important to be able to go back and say, where have we been? What has happened? And being able to record it, of course, and watch back some of it certainly helped me to keep track of where we were. And I think that's actually something, credit to Bruce there. If everybody splits up, it makes it very hard to make sure that people don't completely get bored while they're not in the limelight, while they're not in the spotlight. So well done on that one. How did you find running that, Bruce?
That is quite taxing, but I think that works, as you say, you're trying to give enough time. So in the back of my mind is, I'm talking about a scene. Okay, we get to the bed, you open the door. That sounds like a good scene. We'll cut back to the other group, or we get to a point. You've got to still try and make, as somebody who's running it, you are going to be splitting your attention, because you're splitting that spotlight between 2, 3, possibly even 4 players, to try and keep them at least doing something.
There were moments, like there was one scene, I hope there will be some spoilers on this one, so hopefully that doesn't surprise anybody. But there was one scene in particular where you basically had somebody attack us, and we were all separated at that point. So you had to basically say, who's going to go attack? I get attacked. Did you just do it because you don't like Matthew? Or was there a dramatic reason for it?
Actually, it was because there was a shift. There is you're talking about spoilers. So we talk about there is this sheet that you players can have to write down the notes, as you did, Frank, and everybody else jumped in to help. But there is a GM's timeline, the game runner's timeline, that certain events will happen. And I think you had just passed it, that at some point this group will attack the players. But of course you were split, so I had to pick. And I didn't want to pick where you were for Frank and where Mohammed were, because they were at a location where another attack could happen later on. So unfortunately, Matthew was on his own doing this. I thought, well, it's going to be Matt for that, but then we'll see how that goes and see if you come to the rescue.
And it had a dramatic outcome, didn't it?
Oh, it was splendid, and maybe we can talk about the chase rules.
Yeah, it's a good point for the chase rules.
Yeah,
but I did just want to say that I think possibly something they haven't quite addressed, and I don't know. Okay, I'm going to moan. I'm going to moan 3 ways. I'm going to moan about the dice roller on the Roll app, which I feel just persecutes me. That may be perception. I don't know. I'm going to moan about modern Year Zero system with your bloody polyhedral dice. I like a nice big dice ball of D6s, but I cannot get over that. But the interesting thing is I was vaguely expecting characters to be statistically a little more competent than all the other games.
I can see that.
And I haven't done a direct comparison of character to character, and it's the sort of thing I'd like to do at some point when I've got time, but now I'm employed. I'm finding having time is a hard thing to do. But yeah, it didn't feel to me like I was any more competent than a first level character, for want of a better word, in any other one of the Year Zero games.
I think having run it as well, I had 4 players. Did I have 4 players? Yes, I had 4 players. And there was always somebody who was competent enough to do what they needed to do.
Exactly, but then that's that group function.
So sometimes
rely on the group, which is the way most role-playing games work.
Sometimes you had to push.
We were going with smaller groups, and also this concept of splitting the party up. if you send the wrong bloke, like I was not the charming one. You may have noticed that. I don't know whether you did. So you send the wrong bloke to charm an interviewee. The whole group gets punished because if I as a player fail to ask the right questions, and I don't manage to get the interviewee on board in the way that, say, Mohammed's character could, then the whole group is a bit buggered by that.
It is quite interesting, that one, because the Yellow King role-playing, don't know whether you've ever looked at it. It's basically a reincarnation of the Gumshoe system. Gumshoe, of course, always says we shouldn't have gated clues behind a dice roll where you're then missing the crucial roll. And one of the ways they fix it, they've got this set of investigative skills. And they basically say, however many players you play with, every skill needs to be owned by at least one person. So if the group shrinks, everybody's skill list gets longer. But let's take it to the extreme for a moment. We had a question in the chat here. Can you play with one player? One GM, one player? Because it does say for 1 to 4 players. But does that work? Or would you have to have a sidekick? Or how would you do it?
I would say you can. Because one of the things we didn't make use of quite heavily in this is the resources. And especially Matt's character, the lead, Blade Runner, because they expect you, if you're playing with one player, you've got this, and you meet either NPC another one, or you give them another one as a background character. But there is another mechanic in there, which is the use of promotion points and of Chinyan to do other things, and you should have an extra pool of resources.
Yeah, we did do that a bit.
Things where you can call. Yeah, so you are a member of the police, and you get a lot of backing. So you can say, look, I can't spend my time doing this, but I'll spend the point to tell a group of CIS, LAPD Blade Runners to do the investigation of camera.
Have we spent any points, Shenyan points or human points?
I bought
a promotion in the game.
I spent a promotion to ask for drone, and I spent Shinyan, I think it was, to put a surveillance camera in the alleyway.
Okay.
But for example, I had one of my players, Olsen, who was more a fighter than anything else. She was trying to make head and tails of the Esper wall and couldn't do her tech roll. So she said, either I'm going to call Percy over, the tech wizard, or I'm just going to spend promotion point while I'm here to get a tech guy to assist me. And basically she spent the promotion point. So that unlocked that for her. She didn't have to wait until the other person came over. So that works reasonably well. But of course you then need to remember to actually award promotion points.
Yeah. That could be very well that. Yeah, maybe I should have read that a bit more closely. Because but that's again, that comes back to me as a failure to read that properly as a game runner. Because we're so used to I was treating promotion points as XP.
Yeah.
And you tend to reward that at the end of the adventure. And that's when I read that. And that was again the mistake I made. But when you said that you should be rewarding every session, okay, that's something we should have done. Yeah. Because that way you get points back and you can spend later on.
How did you feel as Fenna, Mohammed? You were playing the Doxy Fenna. Did you feel competent in your role?
Not much, to be honest. I guess it was fun to role play, but maybe at the end the end scene that we have, that was the part that I fell playing the role correctly. Maybe it was my fault at the beginning, not playing the role as a doxy or the charming person, but during the first maybe adventure or two, but in the middle, but not as much. But in the end, that was the highlight of doing it. I felt
it was good at the end, wasn't
it? Yeah.
Do you want to go into the chases briefly and then to the characters play, or the other way around?
Character play, I think, first.
Character play. Okay. How did it bring out the character? I mean, Percy my character was supposed to be a sort of perfectionist. He wants to impress everybody. He wants to make sure that people see him as reliable and trustworthy and so on. And I was trying to play that certainly at the beginning as very straight, and so brought it out for me. But he also had this traumatic memory. So later on, when we found out that this traumatic memory was a plot point for other people as well, that changed that a little bit. But I probably could have played that more in my German game. That Percy had a huge development at the end. It was really good at the end. But how about you guys? How did it work?
Well, I mean, you were trying to be trustworthy. Obviously, I didn't trust you because
of course
you're a
not.
skin
A
job.
replicant.
And Mohammed, you're a skin job too. So, and I'm not a skin job. And I'm pretty sure a skin job killed my family or partner or something as well.
Yeah, you had
your boss.
I was prejudicial. Did I also outrank the two of you?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely treated you like I did, but I don't know if that was an invention or that was actually written into my character. Which, you know, and actually I know a lot of role players really don't like having rank in role playing games because we're all mates together. And I love playing off that either as higher or lower rank. I'm not fussed. I think our table being the group my home group as it were, I think we all love playing that, and we can't really ever understand, especially when Americans do it, because they're also so heavily involved in thanking the military for their service and retired people carrying on their titles, like President Trump, for example. So rank is very important to Americans, but they really don't like it in their role-playing games, I think. There wasn't much mechanically, was there? I'm just trying to think. Are there even things like, in many other Year Zero games, there's buddies, and of course back in Alien, there's agendas. Is there much of that in Blade Runner?
There's a key memory.
Key memory.
And there's a buddy key relationship, but it doesn't normally have to be a player. For me, it was an NPC, and I think it was the same for each of us.
I must admit, I can't remember what my key relationship was, so I can't imagine it was either of you two.
I could look it up.
Relationship.
Just don't want to take the focus away too much from what's here. But yeah, I see what you mean, that you don't have this forced relationship. You would have to build it up yourself.
Yeah, you had a nice, the little history on the pre-gens was great. And I'd like to, I didn't have the rule set. You've created a character. Is there a way of generating that history randomly with a new character?
There sort of is with the key relationships. Yeah. So you say, okay, what is your key memory? What's your key relationship? You get a hook, and then you have to develop it yourself. There's not a lot of detail behind it. But yeah, if you want to check that out, I think it's on my channel. I made a character creation video.
Yeah, no, I saw it on your channel earlier on when I was looking for this one.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Finally, you're looking at my YouTube channel. I feel honored.
I have been on your YouTube channel before. I may even be a subscriber. Let me check.
Yeah, good.
This is make you find out he isn't. He clicks the button now.
No, I'm not. I am now.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel honored, as I said. Right. So I think the character play. Sorry, Mohammed, I didn't want to cut across you. Did you feel that you had enough to go by with Fenna?
It was good. As I said at the beginning, maybe in the middle, I tried to use my key relationship maybe to. I thought the key relationship was part of the plot, so that's why I was a bit confused about the key relationship of Fenna, because it wasn't mentioned or used at all. So that part was a little bit confusing for me. I don't know if there is anything related to the plot.
Yeah,
I didn't read yet the whole scenario for it.
I don't think
I'm struggling. I don't think there is anything for Fenna, because the only two people that I can really think of was Percival and Novak, and it's optional to add them in. So I think as you as a player, you need if you're running this, I think there needs to be at least something. If a player brings in that, it should be something in that adventure, because Benna is actually the second most picked character, because you have to pick characters for that adventure in an order.
Yeah.
Novak must always be played. Benna is the second. Percival is the third, and I've forgotten who the fourth one is. Olsen is who's basically a combat, from what I read.
All right, so hold on.
Very effective.
If there's one player you choose my character, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have assumed that Percival would be the first character chosen, given the plot point.
Well, that would have been an interesting idea. I mean, it's not written in the plot. Your key memories are nobody's key memories are really written in that scenario.
You could argue that mine was. We just had the question. I think the pre-gens were expressly created for this scenario, but the key relationships were not. The memory, however, mine featured a friend I used to play with, a little girl called Leia, who basically got stuck in a burning building and the building collapsed on her. That was my traumatic memory. Now you can choose to interpret that as being the same Leia, or at least being recognizable, the younger version of this Leia. So that some of the memory, because Leia's daughter features in this, basically get reused maybe. So you could have that as a hook. But my key relationship was somebody in the crime investigation, crime technical unit, who I didn't even play at all. Yeah, I didn't play on that.
So, Bruce, if Mohammed had forced his key relationship into the thing, so, said, right, I'm spending this shift going, who is your key relationship, Mohammed?
Actually, because the key relationship, it's a very good plot point, because she was my partner, and she's missing, and the unit stopped searching for her, and the case was closed.
All right. So, okay. So you can't say I am going to bring my key relationship onto the table with that one, unless you said, right, I'm not going to investigate the crime.
Yeah, I might interject, because this is going to be a series of adventures going forward.
Okay.
So master.
And I wonder if they'll
all pop up eventually.
Well, either they pop up eventually, or they will allow people, if you want to play the characters from this one and move them on to this one, you can do that.
If they're still around.
Well, you could do that. There is something in the scenario which alters everything, because some of the NPCs may turn up or may not turn up, depending on what you've done. Because I think it's quite assumed that the general plot line was some of them are going to get bumped off. But if players do something different, then they could be around for the next one.
I think there's one in particular where it says, try not to kill this one. If I remember correctly. As I'm just scrolling through here on the side.
You can't kill the two movie ones.
Well, not David Holden. Yeah, you're not supposed to kill him anyway.
He's got plot protection, has he?
Yeah, he's got plot armor. He's too important.
You can every time you pull the gun, it doesn't load up. It's like a video game.
Yeah. You get a little cross over your crosshair and saying, no, you can't shoot this guy.
Oh, no.
In Red Dead Redemption 1, I shot and killed a character I was meant to interact with later.
I'm sure you did.
Really pissed me off.
Yeah, I think I've done that before as well. It was a Skyrim. But anyway, don't want to go too far there. The next question was chases. Let's get back to chases. What do you make of that? Because our chase was very quick. Over very swiftly.
So, I look to you, Bruce, here, because and I'm not. It was great. It was fun. Again, I was on my own for this one, because this is when I was attacked, when maybe we should have had more people in the car with me. We did a chase. I have to say, I thought there were too many random incidents. Every single round, there was a random incident, which, made kind of made it fun, I think. But part of me was going, oh, God, what's this going on? And it's almost like I wanted to have a mechanic by which if you made a mistake, you rolled a random incident or something like that. just to have a little bit of, okay, maybe occasionally for one round it could be drive skill versus drive skill, but I don't know. What's the rules?
I mean, the rules were, I mean, because the one thing about it is you have like a card. Everybody selects for what they're doing in that round. They'll select a card out. Going to try and advance my speed if I'm the pursuer, or if I'm far enough ahead, I'm going to try and hide. And then everybody selects that. Then what the game runners do is there is some tables they can roll against, and that could upset someone's plans. That's where the random thing came in. Because one of the things is like you can run in a chase scene, and this is in the 2-player one, I think, because they did theirs on foot.
Yeah.
That you can run and you get stopped by monks walking down. And you're right, it is kind of unusual for some of the scenes. I feel that, you need to have an idea of what it is you're trying to achieve. What's the chase scene about? Is that random thing in there? Maybe you should just roll for the environment area once. If this happens, whoever is here is going to have to make a roll, or everybody who's going through has got to make an extra success or something.
Did you have a chase in your other game, Bruce?
Yes, I did. There was a foot chase on the ground. They were chasing after I've forgotten the guys. The Styles. They were chasing after Styles on foot, because that's one of the things that can happen. Because they did something about they almost found like, we'll investigate this. We're here now, which triggers the end game.
Yeah. If I take my game, we had one chase. Basically, we had the same scene. There was a spinner coming in. 2 of the people were on the roof. They were being attacked. They didn't get back in their spinner. Instead, Olsen, being a really, really good shot, had a shot at the spinner, 4 successes in one shot.
Oh.
So that caused a critical on it. And then she rolled a 10 on the critical hit, which basically meant the whole thing crashed into the house. So it felt a bit like ours.
Oh, yeah.
And it sort of trundled down and fell right into the road when splat. Only one person got out. The others were dead, basically. But he blew up that and ran away, so we had a foot chase. And the foot chase was very short as well, down an alleyway, through an old building, and then there was this event saying he's trying to cut a corner by jumping through a shop window. Yeah, but he has to make a strength roll to actually get through the shop window, and he failed that, so he rebounded off and took damage from it and collapsed on the floor. And then they caught up with him. He blew himself up just in time. But so it worked. It was dramatic, but it was almost a little bit farcical. He was trying, the Luba Luft, I think she's called in the novel or in the film. She's running away with a see-through raincoat.
Yeah, through the bed. You're running through the crowd
and through the glass.
So that's where your environment thing should be. You're running through the crowds. So what you should be saying is, because you're trying to get through things, you need to do certain things to get through the pursuer.
Yeah,
you got to get through, get knocked. And I think Matthew's right, if you fail or fumble with something into it, or let's say a GM, but you decide, okay, you kind of want to get it away, so let's just say you're going to increase the difficulty or you're going to make it difficult. That's when you have some sort of event where it goes badly against whoever rolls badly.
Yeah. And I think that's what they're trying to do. They're basically saying, let's cut out the boring bits where nothing happens. Let's just have event after event where something matters. You have to roll that influences the chase result.
Yeah.
Does also the random tables matches the environment, or depend on which is?
There's actually 3 chase tables. So if you're doing a foot chase, there's one table for that. There's a ground vehicle chase, and there is an aerial chase, which is what we used for the spinners.
I mean, there is also for the crowded area or desolated area, or it doesn't matter because in maybe desolated area there is crowd. You were confronted by crowd. Maybe it's not fit the narrative. If you understand what I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's if you're chasing around in the derelict building, and you're all random monks turn up, you're kind of going, well, hang on a minute. Whereas I think that's maybe something as an expansion to what they've got.
Yeah.
Like a GM screen. Here's a table, what we suggest is a bog standard. This is your derelict building chase. This is your crowded street chase. This is your bet. Just to give, I think really what you need is just ideas for GM.
Yeah, indeed.
When something goes through, you don't need a table. It's just like a list of ideas. And I'm going to go back to another game, the Feng Shui game, where they have locations and they have a thing called stuff happens.
Yeah.
And all it is a
cool
prompt.
things that can happen.
Yeah, cool things that can happen. Yeah. And it's a prompt, really. It's a prompt because you're sitting there going, okay, we're here. I need to think what could happen here. Whereas you've got this nice little list and you go, right, okay, that sounds interesting. I'm going to do that. That's what's happened in this scene.
Pick it up. And maybe if they move the scenario to a different location, which is not a city or whatever, maybe it's out in the Kippel, and then can easily generate a new table, or you can do it as a GM as well. But it is work, definitely, to come up with these ideas. What was I going to ask next? How did you think the game transported the mood? I mean, if you look at the artwork, for example, we all know that they're very good at artwork, but how did the mood, the setting come across in the game?
Yeah, from the beginning of Bruce describing the scenario and from the start, it sunk me in from the beginning. Even the monologue, Matthew's monologue, I sensed that.
Do the growly voice, Matthew.
In Blade Runner, it really sunk me in.
Yeah, I'm just glad they got rid of that end of the line. That Novak's in a fall mood. Of course he's in a fall mood. He's read the paper.
Actually, in my playthrough, I skipped that scene. So I just thought, it doesn't add that much. But yeah, we didn't have anybody doing growly voices either.
No. It was supposed to be an intro for the players, but I don't think it really works as well as they think it is.
Yeah.
I get what they were doing, because it's that opening scene from Blade Runner when we first meet Djachroum.
The artwork is brilliant, and I think stuff that transports it, I mean, this, for example, I only have part of it here because I got it on single screen right now, but it's the newspaper at the beginning. Yeah, what do we immediately check, or what should I say, did Novak immediately check? It was the radiation report, wasn't it?
Yeah, air pollution levels, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same with my other group, it's just like, not excited. Of course I'm angry. It's pollution that's gone up. Smog levels are up.
Don't go here, don't go there. I thought that these prompts work really well on the pictures, the crime scene pictures. They basically put a skill check almost onto you as a player, and it's like the point and click adventures. You say,
I mean, a bit too much like a point and click for my liking.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I mean, I don't know. There's a special kind of reward when the uniform cops have said there's no bullets there, and you look at the broken mirror and you go, okay, I'm going to look behind the broken mirror, Bruce. And you know, Bruce says, "Oh, you find a bullet." Duh. You know, I like that. That makes me as a player feel good when I do something like that. But I again, you know, that's me as a player. It's not my character making a notice roll or whatever. I don't know whether that's a big thing. It, you know, it gave me a little rush of endorphins. But those are very evocative images, even if they are a bit point and clicky.
They're kind of obvious as well when you look at them, because they do shine on the clues.
Yeah, but a light.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of light. There is something where they've done sort of slight, and then your eye catches, because you go with the phrase that pays. Whereas I would probably have your these are your main clues.
Yeah.
And then have hidden clues that are not either in the picture or they're not so obvious that your eye doesn't see them.
Yeah, I remember
just looking for the crime scene shot.
Quizzing you on that club picture with the mirror, because I was thinking it can't be as obvious as that. There's going to be something hidden in the darker corners.
And it looked like it as well.
Looking at ill-defined shapes on the bar and going, "What's that thing?"
Yeah, I'm just seeing whether I can find it here. One of the things was it looked like it had been edited. Yeah, there was a bit which was a different coloration on the bar, and that's what you were looking at. And you think, "Oh, I need to notice this because clearly somebody had tampered with the picture, with the evidence," and then you basically said, "Oh, maybe it's just Free League tampering with their own art." So I've just got it on the screen here. I'm not sure whether you can see it on the stream, but we had this sort of nice bar scene, and then there's this shaded, slightly darker square over it.
Yeah, and even my other players, they did exactly the same thing. They looked at the bar scene, okay, and there was nothing there. They just like, what do you find? Well, there's this fish. It's a herring, and it's red.
Yeah, it's not a blue sprout or something. Trout.
And we won't talk about the rail on the bed in the apartment.
No, we won't talk about that because I don't think anybody saw that other than you.
Interestingly enough, I did not pass that on when we were giving our feedback to Felix.
No, indeed.
You'll have to watch the actual plays if you want to find out more about that.
Yes, if you really want to.
I've got to say though, these are very evocative images. I think they do quite a good job of creating that, both the genre as described, but also the feel of the two films. The graphic design on the paper, you talked about the paper earlier on, Frank. I was actually a little bit disappointed by.
Is it the typography that annoyed you?
Yes, the typography annoyed me. I mean, it would annoy anybody. If you think about get
it back here. It's
tough because, of course, we're looking at a medium, newspapers, that doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, they sell a few souvenir copies every day to the old farts, but most people don't actually use newspapers in the way that Rick Deckard uses his newspaper in the opening shots of that. But the opening shots he had there were of a yellowed broadsheet.
Yeah.
And frankly, that is the newspaper I want to see in my version of Blade Runner. I don't want to see an A4 sheet of paper, that looks like it's come out of somebody's. And I'm going to be really rude to the graphic designer here, and I don't mean that, but it looks like it's come off, as somebody's publish your own newsletter software. And it didn't feel in world to me.
Okay, I have seen this newspaper format in the US when I was traveling. I can't remember, was it USA Today or something? They have got this tall and narrow, so that format exists.
Tall and narrow, I don't mind. I think that's the Berliner format actually that the Guardian was in for a few years ago. But no, it's the clean.
Yeah.
It's the white paper and the clean colours that I felt do not evoke the genre.
Yeah.
It feels like you bought it straight out of the printing press, whereas you're right. You've walked to this noodle bar and it should be tattered and battered.
Indeed, should have some stains on it, some soy sauce.
Or, it could even be of a recycled paper, where paper recycling in this future isn't quite as good as we have it nowadays. It needs to be yellow, basically, is I think what I'm saying, or something not quite so clear and...
And we have to remember this is an alternative timeline, because this is what the first one was 2019.
2019,
was for the first thing, and it's 3 years later. So theoretically, people would like to have physical things, and that is a theme in the book and in the film, that especially in the book, that having something physical is a sort of prestige. Is a lifestyle. It's you're keeping up with the Joneses. And that's what was so important about the animals. Everybody would want the animal.
Now, in the physical starter set, this is going to be printout you're going to get. So get your soy sauce out and.
I don't want to pass having been very judgmental. I don't want to pass judgment until I see the physical output.
Yeah, hopefully it's not just poster paper.
But we talked Gumshoe earlier on. I don't know if any of you got the Dracula dossier. But the Dracula dossier includes on PDF that's got the Hawkins papers, which I think, they're all on a single sheet of A4 again, but they feel more late 19th century. Or they don't feel, they feel like whatever you print them on, but they look more late 19th century. And for those few backers who forked out for the prestige version of the Hawkins papers, they were amazing. I'm not one of them, I hasten to add. Don't come and steal them from my house.
On the Yellow King, you also can get this scrapbook, essentially, called Absinthe and Carcosa, which is basically a big book just of newspaper cuttings, diagrams, adverts, and so on from Paris of 1893. And you can flick through it and say, oh, here's a bit of Notre Dame, here's a bit about this, here's something about the sewer system, and so on. So it's quite evocative as well, but many players will actually put their hands on it, I wonder.
Well, you have to force the players' hands on it and make adventures out of it. So with the with the Dracula dossier, you've got to stick the book in front of their hands with some post-it notes in it and make them read the bloody novel.
I think that having looked at the unboxing video, I think having these handouts and so on physically is going to make a real difference. But how did you find running it? Back to Bruce, and maybe how did we find handling all the extra evidence and the handouts and the pictures and the cards, because we did it all on Roll VTT.
I certainly felt that you have to have a print up of it, because you have to break everything out and make sure that you've got that. There's a lot of prep, because everything that you get in the PDF is usually bundled together. All the handouts are in one big PDF, so you need to separate all that out if you're giving people that individual. Yeah, I might just quickly
nip into my Roll room and show that on the side.
And the other thing I would say is, when you're naming them, don't name them handout A, B, C, D. You could call them handout A, but that is the thing you won't be looking at what to call it. You could still call them handout A, or just go out A and then a brief description.
Completely agree with that. Otherwise, it's meaningless to the players to navigate later on. And I've just pulled up my Roll here. I'm just going to scroll through it briefly just to get an idea here of how many different handouts there were. I use tokens as well, though, so there are some extra ones here. But I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and of course, for the players to then be able to say, "Oh, I want to look at that piece of evidence again," that becomes an overhead of navigating. If you've got a big table, big gaming table, and you've got all the physical stuff, I think that would be much easier.
Yeah.
I would say
I imagine opening the box is a real thrill when people get it, and I imagine using those props at the table, if they're well produced, will be very exciting. It does, though, bring us to what you wanted to say was your final question, so I might be doing this a bit early.
Go on. We have about
how
10 minutes.
Easy is it to make your own cases if you are a GM?
Right, that's a good question. What do you think? Maybe Mohammed.
Well, shall we start with Bruce, because
he's done it twice.
The most GM-y of us.
Well, you run the same game twice.
Yeah.
What was it? The Brendan Fraser quote? I fought two mummies. No, you fought the same mummy twice. Twice. It is an interesting question. I'll just, before we jump into that one, because you were talking about the handouts and the cases. The one thing I was going to say is, if you're doing it online and for the handouts, I would suggest also maybe using something like Miro to give them to do a map. Doing that with, we've talked about Dracula's dossier, and we're doing that with all our notes. And that would be a good way of following. You give them a copy, or you can drop them onto a box and say, look, here's your clue, you stick and write your notes up on the Miro on your crazy board for your investigation. Going back to your adventures, now interestingly, I was having a little think about this, of creating your own adventures, because the other thing, which is going to be a sideline, is could you run this as a convention game? And my first immediate answer is no.
I had the same question the other day with my German group, and I think you could with adjustment.
Yeah, I'll touch on how to create your own adventures slide in a minute. But the real reason is, and this comes back just because I've come back from the Tabletop Scotland, and there was a few games being run, and some of them were investigational style games. And I was talking to the people who were running them, and it's the same sort of thing, that you don't have a lot of time at a convention. You've got probably about 3 to 4 hours, and if you watch the actual plays, you're spending quite a lot of time because you've got to ask a lot of questions with clues, and then you've got to take your time to think about these clues, whether you're a player or a character, and then you've got to try and get to the next scene of where it is using those clues. That is a big challenge for this one because there is so much that happens. So when it comes down to the question of if you're trying to run it at a convention or create your own case or short case, you're going to have to cut down so much stuff out of it. I think you're going to have to do like the old locked room mystery. You're going to try and do the almost like the murder suspects, but who's the android. So you might have a murder, but someone is actually a replicant, and you're a replicant who's done the murder. Or they might, or did they do the murder, or was it somebody else trying to frame the replicant? And you're going to have the one thing which I would feel that you want to add is using the time shift to have a ticking clock of certain events that happen if they don't go through.
Yeah.
So you need something that puts a time pressure if you're going to run it for a convention game. If you were also thinking about running this or doing a longer sessions, I feel that you want to have, and one of the ideas I'm thinking about is looking at old photographs, because that's the one thing about Blade Runner, the noir. You want to have something, just get something like a photograph image that you're here, this is the image you see, and you as a GM, this is where your skills come in. You can write some notes down. Maybe the player does ask the right question about a scene, or you give them the notice roll as the alternative. You give them something, you need something physical. And I think this is a bit where you want printouts of just an image to give them and just have a front. Just even a picture of a room or something. You might take a picture of maybe you go onto online to like a fancy hotel with the four-poster bed and just put that there. That's somebody's room for the investigation. Here's the grand hall, but imagine it's a bit more derelict, so you add a bit more descriptive for it.
You're good at photo editing. Yeah, the world is your oyster.
Yes, if you are good at photo editing, or if you can convince one of these, I know it's a touchy subject, and I apologize, that if you can type the right commands to get an AI artwork thing to do it for you.
Hot topic right now on the Effect Podcast Discord.
Yeah, it is. It's a very, very controversial element. And it's not just there. I think it's also in our indie group as well. Everybody's talking about it. Or you can maybe even genuinely pay an artist who's willing to set that.
Yeah, indeed. I think
might be as well.
I think as long as you want to use these crime pictures, there are two ways really. Either you create some somehow. And for example, I experimented with Chronos Builder, which has got sci-fi assets in it. So you can basically make a room and you can put props in there, and it looks a bit too clean right now, but you can put some filter over it and that's going to be fine. Or potentially you find pictures like Bruce was saying and you fit your stories to them.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'll jump back to it. Tell you what I would be tempted to do is, if I ever find anything like in a thrift shop, is actually look for photographs of people taken and thrown away. Because I remember, I'm thinking about a documentary that some people do, is they go away, they buy these things, and they actually found sort of photographs around that just found, because people hold them because they're physical memories, but you can have them in there and just use them for your game. So here's an image, oh, you've got this happy sort of family thing or anything like that. That could be another method, and that could give an authentic side to it.
Sort of thing you often might do for Call of Cthulhu or something, where you get pictures from the 20s or 30s. Or... Yeah, I can see that. But I think it's possible to make your own case. I actually made a case file generator on this one. Again, there's a roll table, which is a bit skinny, to be honest, in the rule book. But it gave me some ideas. It gave me some ideas of saying, okay, you could do this, you could do that. It was something about a TV host and so on. Famous celebrity, and but then getting it to the level of, and here are the clues, and here are the pictures, and here are the handouts. I have not done that yet. And I anticipate there would be quite some work, but probably really cool to do.
Yeah, it feels like there needs to be like an underground league of Blade Runner GMs to work on various projects. Right, we're all going to work on this case. we're gonna commit a replicant murder here. So this is the project of the week. We're all do this, and we go here, run it, and we've done all the pictures and paintings. Then we move to the next lot. Here's our next lot. We do the same thing.
I think Bruce is just suggesting the next collaborative project for us.
Underground, because obviously Free League and the licensee's Acorn cannot obviously officially endorse.
No, of course not. Which is another tricky thing on it. But you just sparked something off there. I just wanted to mention on, I think, the Blade Runner Discord, somebody has actually already made lots of assets. So they've done sort of the ID records, for example, with the fingerprints. He's made templates for them in design, I think it was. So there are some people starting to make templates at least, so they look cool. Or they look in keeping. For me, I don't like, for example, the ID records we had of everybody. They were like black on black, essentially. Didn't like them. Yeah. I mean, kills your printer cartridge, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if you're printing them out,
yeah,
it's lovely if they come in a lovely printed box for you. But yeah, I think we poor home producers need something a bit different.
Yeah.
But unless you get something like Kickstarter or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Resource pack. Right, shall we just sum up, because we said we would keep this for now. We're basically at the hour. What did you make of the game overall then? Would you want to play it again? Are you excited about it, or do you say, oh, I'm going to put my starter kit on eBay when it comes?
No, probably I want to put it on the table. I never played on table but before, because I was just starting the playing, but it be very interesting to put it on the table to put a crazy board, the Miro board. It will be fun to see it as physical, how the player will interact with it.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool, a bit like Brindlewood Bay.
Yeah.
It has that attraction that it's a known brand. So, Mohammed, you may not have a lot of role players around you where you live, but this is a film that loads of people around where you live have seen, and they could get into it. Like I think Alien, for example, is a brilliant starter game to introduce people to role-playing games, and particularly the starter sets with all the props are really useful for people that aren't quite used to the whole concept of theatre in the mind. And I think this will play like that as well. I wouldn't want to run a campaign in it. I could well take it to a group, or run it for a group of particularly neophytes who might not be into role-playing, but like a good detective story. When I used to work at the game shop, there is a whole table of games that we sell at the game shop in Aldershot, that is.
I was waiting for that.
Which are basically detective story games. And there's more they're more board gamey, there's a bit more mechanics behind them. But this has obviously drawn inspiration from stuff like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
I think that's what Thomas said,
It could kind of be played like that. So it could be a great transition game for the people that come and hang out around that table. You could get them into role-playing that way. I don't see a campaign in it. I'm too lazy a GM to spend all the time creating props and creating adventures that they should be played.
Yeah, I think it's more. I'm not going to say it's like Murder of the Week. It's not going to be like Midsummer Murders. I'm only using Murder Mysteries because they're the most staple things from it. But it feels like these are going to be your crime scenes, or do crime books that every crime author puts out every year after around Christmas. I think you get one of them at least. I don't mind an arching story. So Alien Cinematic Ones has an arching story behind it. And I think there's going to be an arching story behind these ones that are coming out as well. And overall, you're still going to be investigating. You're still wanting to understand the crime, the clues, and learning from it. I would certainly run this again. And I would certainly like to have a bash at one. I semi-tempted to try and do, see if I can try and do a convention-style game with the characters.
I think that's really needed. If you can do it before Dragon Meet, you can run it there.
I'm not coming down to Dragon Meet. Sorry.
I'll have to work.
Yeah, the condensed contingency will be the one I'll be heading down to, which is in January. It gives me enough time. So I've still got a few other games I need to sort up, including this Western game I seem to run as well. I don't know who did that one.
Luckily you don't need illustrations for that, and given how much we've just spent on one. That's probably a good thing. I do just want to touch on Dragon Meat, actually, because a little birdie tells me that we might be selling, if you haven't pre-ordered, that they might arrive in time and be going out to backers before Dragon Meat, and therefore we might be able to actually sell copies of this at Dragon.
But for those who are not as plugged into the gaming scene as you are, Matthew, when and where is Dragon Meat?
Dragon Meat is in London. It's a one-day convention on the first Saturday in December every year, and that time this year will be Saturday the 3rd.
Which is always a work day for me.
In Hammersmith.
So it's the right shame. Mohammed, are you coming over for that one?
Visa will be expired, but we'll try. We'll try to apply for another visa.
That's quite a trip.
Nicholas is coming from Sweden.
Yeah, I read that.
Anyway, so.
That is really, really good to hear that. Right. Anything else? I mean, from my side, just my sum up was I've really enjoyed running it. In the game we played, there was some brilliant character play that we really went for it. This sort of realization when they were in the Lilith memory lab that the androids basically were saying, "Oh, you were doing what to us? Yeah, you're controlling us with trauma." Sort of a world just crumbled for them, and they actually took lots of stress point voluntarily for that. And still at the end, they basically arrested Leia, and one of the other androids, Percy, actually essentially walked out. Yeah, after the case, after the rest, he never came back.
Ending. I don't know how it compared with your German ending or
less bloody,
or your other one, Bruce. But I loved ours.
Oh yeah, the other one. I'll do the spoiler. The other one was the ending that's supposed to be in the attack, where they basically missed out because they had some me time, and during that me time, that's when basically did the assault on the memories into the daughter. So that's when well, spoilers, yeah. Well, it could happen, but it happens at a certain time.
I have not got to the final scene yet, in the sense of the final location.
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there's another location.
They got to the final location, and that's where because I was struggling to do the attack on them. That's where I went. Right.
Yeah, I think had I got to the final location, without spoiling too much, I think that some of my players, some of the replicants, may not have been available for episode 2. Let's put it that way. They may have left their life on Earth behind, one way or another.
Right.
Anyway, I think that brings us to the end. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, just like I enjoyed playing with you guys. Special thanks again to Bruce for running it.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. It was great.
Yeah, it was great. It takes a lot of doing.
The convention one up, we'll maybe try and see if we can do the same, and it wouldn't be as long as that one.
No,
yeah,
it's a convention game.
I'll be happy test player whenever you want to do it.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, in that case, let's say goodbye to our viewers. I think we had a couple, and we certainly have a couple of nice comments and questions, which is really good to see. We even had somebody follow called Atso of Melk, who is, of course, an absolute expert in investigation, name of the rose, if you remember that. And J. Sebastian has recently subscribed to us as well, if that means anything to you. He is one of the specials in the novel. But yeah, thank you very much to all the watchers and all the contributions. And I think I'll close our stream with a little bye-bye.
Bye-bye, and thank you for hosting.
You're welcome.